Welcome to Mania. I'm not, but the show is. And today we're going to be talking about Terminator Dark Fate and why it flopped. No, fuck that, because everybody's been talking about that. No, we're going to be talking about Terminator Dark Fate and why people should shut up about Terminator Dark Fate. Please, stop talking about this movie. It's over. It's done. It flopped, and we knew it was going to flop. But everybody on the internet is acting like it's a big deal why this movie flopped when the last 4 Terminator movies flopped, including this one. So we're going to look at it, starting from Terminator 1. Terminator 1 was made on a budget of $5 million, $5.5 million, and made back around $70 to $80 million. So it was a hit, yeah. But here's my point with this. Terminator was never this popular franchise as everybody keeps making it out to be. Like, people are like here's the problem. The studio, thought the online fandom for Terminator, like for every film, you'll have these Terminator fans like, going all goo goo gaga nostalgic. They took that for real nostalgia from the world, from our environment, and that's not true. Truth is, nobody's seen Terminator 1, nobody's seen Terminator 2, nobody gives a shit about those movies. And it's funny because people act like everybody's seen those movies like Jurassic Park. Like, they'll put it up there with a Jurassic Park or Star Wars. Terminator is not on that same level in terms of anything, and maybe quality-wise, yeah, but not in terms of impact or popularity. It was just more or less James Cameron's vision, like not even his Avatar before his Avatar. It was more or less just a sleeper hit he made in the 80s. And he'd even make a trilogy to it. He made one movie to it. And that movie technically finishes off the whole story. So when people try to say that Terminator was this big franchise that these studios keep ruining, actually, it really wasn't. It was never a big franchise. They had one big movie. The first one really wasn't a big hit. It was a sleeper hit, and it was made on a very, very low budget. Even for that time, it was a very low budget movie. So when people are saying that, oh, this movie should be a hit, this movie, or this movie, how did this movie flop? And it's like, because you're making a movie from a franchise that nobody ever gave a shit about. That's the thing. And I don't care how much you like Terminator 2. I like Terminator 2. Too bad that nobody nowadays don't give a shit about that movie. That's the problem. I ask people at my job, I ask kids nowadays, they've all seen Jurassic Park. Ain't nobody seen no damn Terminator 2. Unless you're like a big sci-fi nerd or something like that, you ain't seen no fucking Terminator 2. At least not like talking about it. No, you have not. Stop. And it's not on the same level as a Jurassic Park or Star Wars. So every time they bring these movies back, it always hit me, even as a kid, because I was like, who watched these movies? I watched them because my introduction to Terminator was Terminator 3 when I was like 10 years old, and my uncle took me to see that when I was a kid. Then I saw 2 and 1 shortly after. So I've always been a fan of the movies that weren't bad or weren't as good as the old ones, because that's what I grew up on. That's what I started with. So I have a different tolerance level for somebody that's a huge diehard Terminator 1 and 2 fan. Then, like, I have a different tolerance level than they do. They are high on their tolerance for Terminator. They only need, it's some people who only want a masterpiece coming from this franchise. That's all they want, nothing else. And if they don't get it, then the movie's whack. Case in point, Dark Fate. Dark Fate is legitly the best Terminator movie I've seen. It's the second one, and I love the third one. I have a nostalgic, I have nostalgia with the third one. I have such nostalgia with this third Terminator movie because I saw it in theaters. Like, I saw it in theaters as a kid, 10 years old, and that shit blew me away. All these trucks flying, Arnold Schwarzenegger saying these bad lines and shit. I thought it was funny. People were clapping in the audience, but now everybody acts like they hate the movie. It's funny how movies where people clap at, people have a malicious love, you see the audience love. These incels online are just literally just like trashing and shit. But whatever. Terminator Salvation comes out, and that movie legitimately flops. And so does Terminator 3. Oh yeah, let's get back on the Terminator 3. Terminator 3 didn't make as much as the second one, but it made around $450 million, around that much, right? Well, they made the movie for $150 million, $180 million, around that big price thing, and that's going to come back. They keep spending way too much money on these sequels. That's going to keep popping up in each sequel we talk about, because ever since Terminator 2, just because they gave that movie was the most expensive movie ever made at the time. It seems like every Terminator movie wanted to be this expensive movie ever made. But here's the problem with Terminator 2. The reason it was so expensive was because it was pushing special effects and boundaries that we haven't seen before. Terminator 3 and the other sequels just seem like they have big budgets, so they can have these big budget action scenes that they want fans it's because fans expect that from the series, instead of you actually using this budget to push special effects. And they've never pushed special effects in these movies ever since Terminator 2. So I think that's a reason why people are hating it too. It's because they haven't really done anything quote unquote new, even though I don't think they have to. To me, like Star Wars to me hasn't done anything new. Like ever since the prequels, they haven't done anything new. When they tried, and any time Star Wars has tried to do anything new, like The Last Jedi or the prequels, they get bashed for it. For any time. So when people are saying, "Oh, I just want something new from a Terminator movie," that's bullshit. They've been new. They've been new. They've been new. Terminator Salvation was a new way. Even Terminator Genesis did new things. It wasn't all just a road trip car movie like most of them, are. Well, at least most of the good ones, like Terminator 3 and this one, Dark Fate. It's a road trip car movie. It's an action road trip car movie where somebody is sent back from the past to protect somebody. Well, somebody's sent back from the future to protect somebody from the past from an unstoppable killing machine. Here's the thing. People are using that like synopsis of Terminator Dark Fate to be like, hey, it's nothing new. There's nothing new about this movie. Actually, yes, it's nothing new, but at the same time, there's nothing new in Star Wars movies, There's nothing new in the Jurassic Park movies, but we still want to see it because if you're a fan of something, you want to see it. I'm a fan of Jurassic Park, so I want to see a new scene of a T-Rex fucking some shit up because I'm a fan of that shit. I like to see that type of stuff. Same with Star Wars. I always want to see a dogfight or a lightsaber battle because that's one of the big things of the series, That's a big staple. There we go, a staple of the series. With Terminator, a staple of the series in every film is that you have a big ass car chase. That's a big thing. So they did it in this film, and what's so funny? People were complaining about the CGI in this movie. Didn't even notice it. At the end, when they're in it's like the helicopter scene with the planes and all that stuff. Then yeah, you can kind of notice the CGI, but not really. It's not like this Justice League level CGI. I really didn't like it. It didn't bother me. It looked like a fucking plane. It looked like a plane was in the air. I'm like, hey, they're probably on a set, but I don't know. The only time they got fake is when they got underwater and you couldn't see a lot of stuff. So when they're underwater pushing their car back and forth, you couldn't see anything. So that's when it got really fake. You're like, I just can't see anything. But they smartly get out of that water for the last little action scene, and they put it into a factory where they have it in every Terminator movie ends in like a factory or what have you, and the robot gets like lava on it or whatever, or gets whatever, the factory kills the robot or whatever. They do that in pretty much in every Terminator movie, but that's also a staple of the franchise. But I see how people are saying they want something new. What I do not agree with is this bullshit argument that this movie is woke. I didn't see anything in this movie about it being woke. People have made this up. Look, I'm sorry. Nerds need to, I don't know if it's nerds, I don't know if it's white people, I don't know who it is. But people need to stop with this shit. This stupid, entitled behavior about everything that's entertainment, from Star Wars to Jurassic Park. It's now Terminator. Oh, it's woke. It's woke. It's woke. It's woke. It's so woke. What's so funny? Mad Max had a movie full of women, like movies where the women are the main characters, right? And they have character to them, somewhat. But besides Furiosa, the other women are just kind of there to be hot women. But the point is that nobody talks about Mad Max. Everybody loves Mad Max. It's this big ass, greatest action movie of all time, masterpiece. You know what I mean? And the problem with Mad Max is that, yes, it's this, that, and the other, but it is essentially a chase movie, I've never heard anybody really just kind of say that. Well, some people have, but most people are like, no, Mad Max is this masterpiece. It's the greatest action film of the 2010s, possibly of all time, whatever. But it's so funny? That film never got accused of being woke. Never. You wouldn't dare. You wouldn't dare bash that film for being woke. George Miller, no. But Star Wars is woke. Star Wars is being woke. I don't know how it's a white person in the lead, but oh no, it's a white woman, not a white male. I guess it's a big difference. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had to have a white male in Star Wars for it to be legit. I don't know. See, that's the problem. We live in a day and age where everybody is just so fucking entitled now. Like, it's to the point where we won't. It's going to be a point where we won't have any franchises. No more franchises are coming in theaters. Like, now I understand what, like, why a lot of people, like a lot of analysts, are worried about the box office, because even though Terminator Salvation and 3 flopped, they still made like a respectable chunk of money to where it was still viability in the franchise. And that's because people weren't thinking about go woke or get broke and none of that shit. And all the Terminator movies are technically woke, if that's the case, because they all feature like these strong female overbearing characters. Like, it's James Cameron was raised in a single mother household. So all his movies have that type of vibe. All his movies are technically woke, from Aliens. And then they try to, and what kills these people, what kills the argument for these people is when you actually mention films that, hey, what about Aliens? What about the old school Terminator? Oh no, those women are very well developed. So Ray isn't, so all these other women isn't, like Sarah Connor can do a few sit-ups with like a few sit-ups or a few pull-ups, and that somehow makes it to where she's a badass. But yet, Wonder Woman can't be a badass, even though she's trained her whole time. But, you know, Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel, those movies are woke, man. Those are woke because they're badasses. But you know, they didn't do pull-ups for it. Like, it's stupid. It's stupid. It's just because you want to protect the past movies that were woke, that did have that type of message in them. That's why like the studios would tell you that Ripley was a woke character. She was a character mainly there because she was only brought back to the Alien sequels because they thought, hey, we should have a female lead this franchise. Not a lot of horror franchises have that. They were thinking like that back then. Thinking just like that back then, and people don't give a shit because we like aliens. So that woke shit doesn't work. But then when you come across a movie where you feel like you're being attacked or you're being like targeted, that's like, these people act like they're being targeted. Like, there's some people who really took personal, like a personal vendetta against Rian Johnson. You know, like a personal like vendetta against him because he's like, oh man, the Star Wars fans are just acting like man babies. It's people who really took that tweet and used that to like hate him. Like, and it's from people from not even online, from regular people. Like, no, man, he bashed the Star Wars fan base. Everybody bashes the Star Wars fan base. The Star Wars fan base, the Star Wars fan base has been the most bashable fan base of the history of fandom. They are the face of fandom. They are the face of nerds. They were the first nerds to make fun of. So people need to stop that. Where it's coming from, where this is all coming from, it's coming from like an idea that Hollywood was trying to correct mistakes of its past, but overcorrect them. So they're trying to use this argument that, like, hey, since Hollywood is trying to like overcorrect these mistakes, they're in a sense being just as bad as they were in the past. You know, it's not true. None of this shit is true. Okay, but this is the thing online. You know, this is the thing online. Terminator failed because it got woke. That's not why it failed. Because, you know, it's so funny. Genesis made this movie made the same amount of money in its first opening weekend as Terminator Genesis did. Same amount of money. Same amount. And if you look at other Terminator movies like Salvation, it's not that big of a difference too. I think that movie may have made like not that much in its opening weekend. I'm thinking not that much. Like, I think maybe 50 million or something like that, 40 million, around that much. But the way people are playing this as a flop, but Genesis as a not, is funny. This movie actually has positive reviews. Genesis didn't. Genesis had the worst. Genesis had like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics couldn't stand it, and fans couldn't stand it. And here's some other bullshit. When Terminator Dark Fate, when people are trying to say, oh, the first 5 minutes is going to ruin the franchise. And spoiler alert, they kill John as a kid in the first 5 minutes. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger walks in and shoots him with a shotgun. And people are saying that, oh, that ruins the franchise. Didn't Genesis literally erase the whole entire franchise? Like, wasn't that the point of Genesis? Kyle Reese literally goes back in time. He goes back, and Sarah Connor's already a badass, and says that, this robot that I call Pops came when I was like a kid, and the whole thing just changed. Nobody cared about that. People actually were on with that idea. They're like, oh, that's kind of cool, but wait, John Connor is still dead. Like, he was never born, but no, he was born, but he was made into a robot. Like, it was some stupid shit like that they couldn't even explain right in Genesis. And yet nobody is making a big deal out of Genesis the way they're making a big deal out of Dark Fate. Dark Fate actually makes sense though. Like, when you really think about it, it's like, hey, a Terminator movie that I don't have to worry about. No, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Skynet's dead. They stopped it. Cool. There's another company like the Apple to Skynet's Microsoft. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. There's obviously going to be other companies that are going to try to do this shit, so that makes sense. But it's not. What I like about this one and not the others is that it feels like a Terminator movie. It has pacing. Genesis didn't have pacing. Genesis was just throwing out random action and fight scenes at random times that made no sense, had any context or anything. It was bad. Yet nobody tripped off that. No, nobody cared. Nobody. When Genesis came out, people were like just acknowledging, okay, it's just another bad Terminator movie. Who cares? It's whatever. Some people actually liked it. Some people liked it. Some people didn't. But it wasn't hate. It didn't get the same amount of hate like this movie got. This movie is getting bashed. But here's the thing. It's not by critics, though. The movie has a 70% Rotten Tomatoes. It's technically the best reviewed Terminator movie since the third one. And most of those critics agree that it's the best Terminator movie since the second one. But hey, in this new day and age, it's like if you make a good movie and a woman's a lead and it's an action movie, then it's bad. But you know what's so funny? Nobody trips off of these get woke or broke movies or whatever when it's a trauma or when it's anything that has nothing to do with the geek genre. That's why it's a problem. When people say, "Oh, it's art, not art problem, it's Hollywood," then why don't you guys trip over these other movies and other genres? Why are people happy that a fucking Hitler movie's out, but they get pissed every time a movie about the civil rights movement comes out? Why do people like you know what I mean? Hell, the fact that people like Hitler. Let's be honest. We're living in a day and age where it's cool to like Hitler. And let's not be honest, people do, because Hitler's everywhere. He's become a fucking artist. Hitler's probably one of the most famous people next to Jesus and Michael Jackson. Seriously, why? This motherfucker killed, not billions, but technically he caused the death of probably billions of people because of the war and shit. But why? Because it's, I guess it's what do you call it? It's cynical. It's a cynical edge. We live in a day and age where everybody wants to have this cynical edge. I'm going to do a video on that too. But everybody wants to have this cynical edge that they think makes them cooler or smarter than other people. Because it's a way to make yourself look better than other people. And it's not. It just makes you just look like a dick. I've never had that in me. I've never been that cynical bastard. Oh, the studio's trying to fuck with us. No, I don't care. I hope the movie does good. I'm one of the type of people that go out and ooh, I want to see that. Most fandoms now are just so negative and so cynical that we have a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog movie coming out, and it would have came out now. We would have been it would have been out now, and the only difference was that Sonic would have looked a little different. But in terms of the script or character or story, would have been all the same. But no, they push it back to February, so they're going to miss out on some holiday dollars because this movie could play to little kids. Now, Frozen 2 would have ate up all its competition, but still, it probably would have raked up the boys of that season at least. But nah, they listened to fandom. They listened to these entitled fans who made a big deal about the way Sonic looked, and then they pushed the movie back until, February. I hope the movie's good, but hell, it's going to run into Birds of Prey, so it might not even make any money, so what's the point? Plus, Paramount needs a hit. Well, whatever. So, with that, they listen. That's another example of fan entitlement. Another example of fans making a big deal out of something that's just small as hell. Like, ooh, Sonic has teeth. Then they push it back, and now we have to wait 4 more months because just so Sonic can look better, even though some of us didn't care about that. We're getting to the point where Hollywood is a fucking raffle machine at this point. They're just taking people's orders. Hey, you guys want another Terminator sequel? Here you go. Because, and you know why they're doing that? Because you won't see an original film unless it has somebody's name on it, you know. Unless it is Christopher Nolan, you will not see an original movie. Period, point blank. And when people are saying, "Oh, there's no original media coming out anymore. All this stuff is gone. Everything is based on something." I always want to say, shut the hell up. Go look to the horror genre and tell me that there's nothing original coming out of there. You're saying you're telling me Us is based on a movie. You're telling me Midsummer is based on anything. Lighthouse, like, come on. But it's just people who don't go out and experiment with other genres. That's why Joker is making all this money. Because for a lot of comic book fans who don't watch other genres of movies, that's like the greatest thing ever. It's like the first time they've seen a psychological drama like that. So for them, it's like, oh, it's the best movie of the year. For somebody like me, it's a really good movie. I don't know about best of the year, but it's a really, really, it's best comic book movie of the year, I'll tell you that much. But it's a really, really good movie, but not like this masterpiece, not this masterful work, that some people make him out to be, and people have used that movie to almost rally against the get woke or go broke movement. And I'm not with any of those movements. I'm just against anybody trying to stop something that is pretty much not detrimental to anything. It's like, oh, a woman's in a movie now. I don't give a shit, okay? You can tell me anybody kicks ass in a movie. I don't give a shit. I don't believe anybody can kick ass. You're telling me that Harrison Ford looks like he can kick somebody's ass? No, he doesn't. I'm supposed to believe Robert De Niro can kick somebody's ass? I'm supposed to believe Al Pacino can kick somebody's ass? I'm supposed to believe these old fucking fucks can kick somebody's ass, but I'm not supposed to believe this woman can kick somebody's ass? Like, come on, man. This is stupid, man. It gets to the point that, like what the hell are we going to release anymore? And that's why theater chains are dying. I've heard ticket sales have gone up this year, but theater chains are dying because all people want to watch are fucking big blockbusters based on something. And then when they want to watch original stuff, it's usually on Netflix or whatever. So that's where they go for their original material. But they don't go to a movie to see actual original stuff. So that's why we're all making a big deal out of the Terminator Dark Fate. Because for some people, they're waiting for this stuff, and for them, they feel like it's targeting them. They feel like, man, this movie is talking crap about me. It's just like shitting on males. I've heard that from a lot of people. I've seen it from a lot of people. They call it Terminator Dark Garbage. Oh, Terminator Dark Fate. Get it? It has a dark fate. Here's my thing, though. Anybody who's anybody knew this movie was going to flop. And it's not because of get woke and go broke movement. That actually probably made it a little bit more money. The reason why it's going to flop is because nobody's ever cared about Terminator franchise. They've never cared about it. They've never gave a shit about it. The only reason anybody saw those movies in the 90s is because of Arnold Schwarzenegger and not Linda Hamilton. She got popular when those movies got into nostalgia. I mean, yes, she was big and everything, but those movies were marketed as Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. Back in those days, you market movies by having a big star like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, or Jean-Claude Van Damme to lead your movies. Now, we don't need that. Now, you can just market a movie based on its concept alone, and as long as you get the concept across in your marketing, you don't really need to have these big stars in them. The big stars are just a plus to get their built-in fan base to also come and see the movie. Terminator has stopped being a franchise ever since we've stopped using these stars as build. You can't use Arnold Schwarzenegger as a build anymore for like a movie. You can't use that for, actually no pun intended, because bodybuilder build, whatever. You can't use that anymore. You can't use that leverage over people. So people have no reason to see this franchise because they only wanted to see Arnold Schwarzenegger kick butt. But since nobody gives a shit about Arnold Schwarzenegger's 70-year-old, he's like, what, 70? Yeah, over 70-year-old ass kicking butt. And plus a lot of people really haven't liked Arnold Schwarzenegger after he was a terrible governor in California. So that all turned into a flop. It had nothing with this get woke, go broke shit. Nobody was going to go see Terminator Dark Fate. Just like they weren't going to see Terminator Genesis. Just like they didn't go see Terminator Salvation. Terminator Salvation opened up the same weekend as Night of the Museum 2. Like think, Night of the Museum 2. And Night of the Museum 2 made more money. Like, that's where the franchise was 10 years ago. You're telling me the franchise just now died? Oh, the franchise now just died? No, the franchise died ever since the second one died. The franchise actually was never alive. What? You cannot tell me nobody was buying Terminator toys and shit like that. That wasn't this big thing. Not as big as Star Wars toys. Not as big as Jurassic Park toys. Not as big as any of those. That's why this movie flopped. Because you're dealing with a franchise that's only been successful because of one man, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he's not successful anymore. Name his last hit. Batman and Robin, 1997. And that wasn't even a hit. It was horrible. Think, this man hasn't made anything successful since Batman and Robin. Crazy. So, what does that mean? People need to shut the hell up about Terminator because you're just being redundant and you're not being honest. You're making up reasons why this movie flopped. This movie flopped because nobody gives a shit about the franchise. Not because of get woke, go broke movement. Yeah, get woke and go broke. Like, the fuck out of here. Like, with that shit. Like, that shit is some bullshit movement that they're trying to use this movie as a way to have an example. Like, oh, see what happens when you get woke and go broke? You get woke. No, The Last Jedi. They try to use that in The Last Jedi or Jurassic World 2 as reasons why you shouldn't get woke or go broke. See, that's why you shouldn't just force diversity in movies, because if you do, we won't see it. Bullshit. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom made $1.3 billion. The second highest grossing Jurassic World movie. Just think that for a second. The second highest grossing Jurassic Park movie. Even more than the original. And it sold more tickets than possibly any solo superhero movie ever. Like, it made more money than any solo superhero movie ever. Any. So then let's go back to The Last Jedi, 1.3 billion. Again, making more money than anything except probably an Avengers movie. Like, or The Lion King or something like that. The point is, you just don't get 1.3 billion like that. No. So, why are people calling those movies flops? Because the other ones made a little bit more. These movies, Jurassic World made less because the nostalgia factor wasn't there with the sequel like it was with the first Jurassic World. People haven't seen Jurassic Park movie in 14 years. They were hyped. The Last Jedi didn't make as much money, and it made a whole shit ton of money. It didn't make as much money is because China really didn't bite with that one. They didn't bite with Force Awakens, but they really didn't bite with Last Jedi. They didn't bite with any of the Star Wars movies so far. So that kind of made it to where Star Wars is more of an American franchise or a Western franchise than a franchise that's like worldwide that they can constantly release. It's not like a Fast and the Furious or a Marvel to where you got these huge China numbers that can possibly like inflate your box office total. That's it. That is the only reason. Not because this get woke and go broke bullshit. That's dumb. That's not why. That's just it's just people using that reason as a way to push their own narrative or push their own agenda. You know, like, and they're saying that these movies have agendas. No, they don't. You have the agenda. If you're really going to these movies and seeing all these messages and shit like that, this get woke, go broke shit with Mexicans and black people and women and all that shit, then you're the one with the fucking problem. You're the one who constantly just can't get this idea or agenda out of your head. People like me, who don't give a shit about any of that, we're just going in there to watch a movie and see Arnold Schwarzenegger blow some shit up and walking out and saying, yes, no. Is it good or not? Yes. Arnold Schwarzenegger blew some shit up. No, if he didn't blow some shit up. If you don't like this movie because you just wanted something new from the Terminator franchise, which is kind of redundant because there's been so many sequels right now, I don't know why you expect anything new. But, yeah, if you wanted something new and you just possibly expected it, well, and you didn't, whatever, cool. I respect that. I'm like, hey, if you didn't like this movie, then yeah. But if you don't like this movie because you're like a type of person like, nope, I'm not getting woke and going broke. Nope, not for me. Get out of here, brother. Nope. Then go fuck yourself because you're just blocking yourself from different experiences because you just don't want to come out of your shell and you're afraid to come out of your shell. So if you're just one of those type of people that are just hating on it just to hate, then you're not doing anything to mess this industry up. It's detrimental to the industry. I'm mania. I'm not, but actually, I'm not mania. What am I saying? This is mania, and I'm not, but the show is. You guys have a good one.